Welcome to our Bowdoin tour. We're so excited to be here with you tonight. We're your guides, obviously, for the night. So, the way that we'll get going is first introducing ourselves and then telling you a little bit about how our tour and our night will work. And then we'll share Bowdoin with you. So, to start, my name is Brooke Rubel. I'm a senior from Westport, Connecticut. I use she, her, hers pronouns on campus. In addition to working with admissions, I co-lead SMART, which is an arts-based mentoring group run through the McKean Center for the Common Good, and I'll talk more about that later on in our tour. I also am the TA for the art history department this semester. And last year, I had the opportunity to serve as a student curatorial assistant for the academic year at the Bowdoin College Museum of Art.
And my name is Valeric Rumi. I'm a sophomore and I'm from Osprey, Florida. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm a double major in Earth and Oceanographic Science and Mathematics. In addition to working as a tour guide with admissions, I'm also a member of Bowdoin's Model United Nations team. I'm fairly active in the outing club as a trip leader, and I'm a member of the club Alpine Ski team.
So that's us, and we are so excited to be here with you tonight and to share what it's like to be a Bowdoin student. So the way that our night will work is for the first half hour, about 25 minutes, we have recorded footage of campus, which we'll share with you, and it follows the same tour route that you would see if you were in person, but recognizing and wanting to be respectful of the Zoom fatigue that we're all experiencing in this increasingly virtualized world. It'll be a rather efficient journey through campus. So again, that's why it's about 25 to 30 minutes. And then afterwards, we'll move straight into a Q&A for the second 30 minutes. And so there is a Q&A function that you can see on the bottom of your Zoom screen. And so that function is open now, and it'll stay open for the remainder of our time together. So this means that as we're moving through the tour, if you have questions, you'd like us to elaborate on something, or we didn't explain something clearly enough, you have a question, please feel free to just immediately send a message in the chat, and then the chat will also be open during our Q&A session. So at any point, if you have any sort of question, please do not hesitate to ask, because that is what we're here for, and we're hoping to bring Bowdoin to you in a safe way. So with that, I will go ahead and begin to share my screen. Just as a quick disclaimer, this footage was filmed in the summer, so I think it's important to acknowledge that and keep that in mind, that if you were to come to campus right now and go on a tour in a normal time, you would see an ice rink on the quad and lots of snowmen and snow forts, and if you were to be there in the fall, you would see all beautiful foliage. So it's just, we think it's important to frame what you're looking at within the context that it was filmed in. So with that, I am going to begin sharing my screen, and we will kick our tour off.
Alrighty, welcome. We are currently leaving admissions, and on this tour, obviously Bowdoin has lots of important buildings and dates associated with them, but we're going to be focusing on the student experience as much as possible, because that's what matters to you most when you're looking at schools like Bowdoin. So the building that we're currently coming up on is our main library, Hawthorne Longfellow, named after two of Bowdoin's famous alumni. And you will start your Bowdoin journey here by signing the matriculation book in President Clayton Rose's office. Now, the matriculation book is a tradition that goes back oh so many years to Bowdoin's founding in 1794, and each of Bowdoin's incoming classes has signed their name into the matriculation book to signify the start of their academic journey at Bowdoin. However, the matriculation book is only a very small piece of Bowdoin's larger orientation program. So after arriving on campus, you'll meet up with a small group of people who will be on one of your orientation trips. You will have three options with orientation trips. You can either go on a Bowdoin Outing Club trip, a McKean Center for the Common Good trip, or a Bowdoin Science Experience trip, which is what I did. And I got to see how my advisor, biology professor Jack Bateman, uses the CRISPR technology to work on genome sequencing in fruit flies, which obviously was a super cool lab-focused academic start to my Bowdoin career. But it was also a really great way to meet both a close group of friends in my class, as well as upper class mentors. You're going to very quickly learn that the support networks at Bowdoin are really broad, and throughout orientation, you will get to meet upperclassmen who you will closely become friends with. One of the ways that they do this is through the Perspectives program. So upper class students will put on a little performance. Well, they take little pieces of your admissions essay and piece them together into a much larger story. And that's a great way to see all the experiences and perspectives that other students in your class have.
Another great way to immediately connect with upperclassmen is through our college house system. So there's a beautiful white building there that we just saw through the trees. That is one of our college houses, which we like to call the living rooms of campus, because while they are mostly occupied by sophomores as residence halls, they're really intended to be spaces for every Bowdoin student. And so the Office of Residential Life gives each house a budget that allows you to have really fun programs, whether it's, a backyard barbecue or a more academically oriented program, working with an office on campus. You're able to do a lot, and that's really amazing. And so when I lived in Reed House my sophomore year, one of my favorite events was Reed Art and Color. We basically converted our house into a performance space. So we had spoken word and live music, but we also hung photography on the walls and displayed ceramics. So it was a really nice way to use the space of the house to amplify the voices of students of color on campus. But we just got a really beautiful glimpse of our quad, and that's what we call another living room off campus. So Val, would you like to touch more on that?
Absolutely. So on a beautiful day, like you'll see in the video, typically the quad is packed with students studying and in hammocks, but you'll also see members of the community of Brunswick passing through. And this is because Bowdoin and Brunswick are really intertwined as one. And one of the ways that Bowdoin takes advantage of this is through the community host program. So when you come to Bowdoin, you have the opportunity to be assigned to a local family in town, and they will be there for you if you ever need it. For me, this was super helpful because when the COVID-19 pandemic hit in March and Bowdoin was unfortunately forced to shut down, I had a place to stay for a week.
So we're currently in Hyde Hall, which is one of our first year bricks. You just got a glimpse of a nice cozy common room. And this building does have an elevator, so it's fully accessible. And every first year floor has a proctor who is an upper class student who lives on the floor with you, and they're an incredible proximal resource. And then you also have an RA who is assigned to your floor, and they're another great resource, but they just live in an upper class dorm. So you have 2-point people right off the bat there to support you. And I just like to acknowledge with our bathrooms, especially in the first year bricks, we don't use a binary men's and women's room. Instead, we use the E-system. So there'll be a piece of paper on the door, and you'll flip it to what you're comfortable with when you enter the space, whether that's E for everyone, M for men, or W for women. And I think this is a really nice illustration of how the college is tangibly committed to supporting all identities. So we're currently in a quad, which is very typical for first year rooming situation. And this is really nice because, as you can see, there's this very spacious bedroom. So there's a common space shared by all 4 of you, and then you have 2 separate doubles within the suite, which is really nice because as you can see, you are able to have a lot of space. And I think it's the best of both worlds of sharing your bedroom with 1 person, but sharing your whole room with 3 others. And I do think that the first year floors are a really great support system. Also, as you transition to Bowdoin, there's a lot of really fun traditions like Flinner, for example, which is where you have dinner on Sunday nights with your floor. And for me, that persisted throughout my sophomore and junior years into flunches and flinners on all nights of the week. And it's really nice because you go through orientation with your floor. And so you're able to kind of go on your orientation trip or your experience, get a group of friends, come back, get really close to your first year floor. And it helps, I think, establish very quickly a really nice Bowdoin community for you. And so one of the questions I had was, where am I going to live? Where am I going to live? What does that look like? But another big one was, what am I going to eat? So Val, do you mind answering that for us?
Of course. So Bowdoin Dining does a really, really fantastic job with food. Brooke and I are both off campus right now, and I know that we both miss the dining very much. It's really that good. And dining really integrates itself into student culture and life as well through a variety of events throughout the year. My favorite of which is Lobster Bake, which kicks off the academic year. Dining will literally wheel a bunch of steamers out to Farley Fieldhouse, and you see all your friends from years prior, and it's just a wonderful way to kick off the school year. On a more day-to-day scale, dining really goes above and beyond to make sure that ingredients are as locally sourced as possible, and sometimes that's only a few hundred yards away from the Bowdoin Organic Garden, which a lot of your salads will be sourced from. So regardless of whether you are gluten-free or vegetarian or vegan, there will definitely be options for you at Bowdoin that are sure to be very tasty. We have 2 dining halls on campus, one of which is called Thorn Dining Hall, and the other one is downstairs in this building, which is Molten Union, which Brooke will be talking to us about next.
Yes, so we are in Molten Union, and this is a space that functions as home for a couple of different important resources. So Up those beautiful grand stairs, you have the dean's offices, which there's also a separate office for accommodations and accessibility that I like to just acknowledge that that is given its own space, and is dedicated to meeting students wherever they're at, which I think is great. And we're now heading back to the career exploration and development office. And so they're great when it comes to, everything that you would expect: help with resumes, CVs, finding internships, recruiting, all of that. But they also offer really unique services. And one of my favorite is the funded internships. So if you're able to secure an internship for the summer that doesn't have a stipend or a salary associated, they will provide a stipend for you, which makes it very feasible and very much appreciated. That there is the Center for Co-Curricular Opportunities, and they're an office that covers a couple of different services and programs. So there's pre-health advising, if you're considering pre-med and going to medical school, but you want help navigating that in a liberal arts undergraduate education, they're a great resource for you. There's also the off-campus study office. And then additionally, there is a dual degree engineering. So it's a 5-year total experience, and you can spend about 2 to 3 years at Bowdoin, where you'll graduate with a BA in physics, and then you can go to a partnered institution for 2 to 3 years. Again, it's 5 years total, so it depends the partnered institution that you go to, but then you in 2 or 3 years will graduate with a Bachelor of Science in engineering. And so I think that's just a really unique program that I like to draw attention to, because you're able to still do engineering and have a liberal arts education, which I think is an incredible opportunity. And then the fourth office within the co-curricular opportunities is the Mellon Mays Undergraduate Fellowship Program. And so this is this is an office committed and a program committed to promoting diversity in higher education, which is really important. And that ties very nicely into the College Street Collective, which is the street we're currently walking on. This is College Street. And then you'll notice on the right side as we walk, there's a whole bunch of different very cute little houses. And so these are all offices that belong to different organizations on campus, programs, offices. They all have full-time directors as well. So there's the Russ Worm Center for African American Life, the Multicultural Center, the Rachel Lord Center for Religious and Spiritual Life, SWAG, which is our Sexuality, Women, and Gender Center. So all of these have student organizations that work with the director there, and they're able to do all kinds of incredible programming with their support. For example, last fall, we celebrated 50 years of the Russ Worm African American Center, the Africana Studies program, and the Black Student Union. So there was really incredible programming surrounding all of that. And I think it's important to have those physical spaces and that kind of support from the college to really feel like all facets of your identity are respected and seen and heard and supported by the community. And then there's also the health services. So we have a counseling center as well as a clinic on campus that kind of functions like a doctor's office or a walk-in clinic, which is great if, God forbid, you're sick. You don't have to go further than your own campus. And then the last resource I just want to acknowledge in thinking about the ways that the college supports you is the the Center for Learning and Teaching. All of the ways that the college supports you are just kind of blending in my mind because there are so many. But the Center for Learning and Teaching, which offers everything from quantitative reasoning tutors to peer-to-peer writing, even, cave days, which is during finals. They'll normally put out snacks and you can just go to the Center for Learning and Teaching and lock in and do all your work. So it's really nice, in addition to the, office hours and meeting with your faculty or TAs, to have those kinds of opportunities. But I do want to give the floor to Val now to talk more about what academics look like at Bowdoin.
Absolutely. So Bowdoin really prides itself on offering a liberal arts education, which can be summed up as learning how what you learn impacts the world around you. And one of the ways that Bowdoin facilitates this is by letting you design your own education. There are no required courses at Bowdoin. Instead, there's 5 different distribution requirements, which lots of different courses will satisfy. So there's a visual and performing arts credit, international perspectives, exploring social differences, inquiry in the natural sciences, and quantitative and statistical reasoning. So, for example, if you absolutely hate math and you never want to take another math class in your life, you could instead take a class on voting behavior. And that's a really interesting way that Bowdoin is able to integrate those things. You'll also take a course called a first-year writing seminar when you get to Bowdoin. And this is a small course with 8 to 10 other students and a professor. And with this, you'll be able to delve really deeply into a topic, and it really primes yourself for the writing intensive portion of Bowdoin, because there is a lot of writing throughout your Bowdoin career. You will not declare your major until the end of your sophomore year, and you are given an advisor when you get to Bowdoin as a pre-major advisor, and then after you declare your major at the end of sophomore year, you're given a major advisor.
Yes. And one other thing to acknowledge about academics at Bowdoin that I think is really important is that there are no graduate students here. So it means all of those incredible opportunities for researching and independent studies and honors theses get to go to you as an undergraduate. And so I've certainly taken advantage of that. I did an independent study last semester that I then got to use that research and apply for an undergraduate conference. So I'll be getting to present that with the support of my faculty and individuals also at the museum. So there's a lot of support that you'll find in pursuing your passions and your research interests. But also briefly, I came into Bowdoin knowing that I wanted to be an art history major, and I am an art history major, but on a suggestion from a professor to take an Italian course in case I choose to go abroad, I ended up taking one Italian course, falling in love with the department and the language and the culture. And so I decided to pursue a double major. And then I also have a dance minor. So art history, Italian studies, double major, dance minor. And I think at schools, that could be really intense and limiting, but I've still had the opportunity to academically explore with archaeology and psychology and religion and history. And I think that is also kind of a product of the structure that Val discussed of academics, where you're able to push yourself and take economics. I took chemistry in the quest for discovery, where we thought about what is discovery and how do we have kind of revisionist history, sometimes only accepting what is deemed to be the most scientifically accurate today. And I wouldn't describe myself as a science or math person, and I really enjoyed those classes. And I think it's nice to have a little bit of a gentle push towards all different disciplines to really explore, but then to also have all that space within your schedule to pursue a double major and a minor and still get to, be intellectually curious and try different disciplines as you continue through your 4 years. So I just think that that's a really nice kind of manifestation of the way that the academic system is structured.
Speaking of being able to bridge different things like the arts and the sciences, one of the ways that Bowdoin is able to facilitate this is through the Kent Island Summer Research Program. So Bowdoin actually owns an island in the Bay of Fundy where students have the opportunity to go and do summer research, and that could be in biology or marine biology or different environmental sciences, but they also have a resident artist at Kent Island. And just like Brooke said, that's totally a way that Bowdoin is able to combine these two things, because they want you to explore as many things as possible. Right down the street that we're currently on, Harpswell Road, will take you on the 25-minute drive down to Bowdoin's Schiller Coastal Studies Center. So the Schiller Coastal Studies Center serves as an off-campus place for Bowdoin students to pursue marine science. So we have the marine science semester as an option for study away. So the way that works is that you will live, eat, and sleep and basically exist at Bowdoin, but each day you'll be bussed out to the Schiller Coastal Studies Center to take your classes there. And if you don't necessarily want to study abroad and go to a different country, that's a wonderful way that you can really integrate that into your Bowdoin experience. Speaking of getting outside, our biggest club on campus is the Bowdoin Outing Club, and that's a place that is very near and dear to my heart. I spent a lot of time there last year as I was going through their student leadership program, which culminated in me to Quebec's Gaspé Peninsula, and we did a cross-country ski traverse of the Chic-Choc Mountains to culminate our leadership training. And that's just an absolutely wonderful way that Bowdoin is able to, show how much they care about sustainability in the environment and integrate that into student activities. And they really care about all these things, and they want to make them as accessible as possible for all students. And one of the ways that they're able to achieve this is by putting no barriers of entrance for students on any sort of financial aid. If you're on any financial aid at all, they will waive club fees for both the Outing Club and all other organizations on campus. However, if you're not an outdoorsy person, don't fret at all. There are tons of other things at Bowdoin to do and to be busy with. Some of the most popular ones are WBOR, which is our radio programming. So students will be able to take over and have their own radio show for a certain amount of time. There's also the Bowdoin Orient, which is our newspaper. We also have a satire newspaper called the Bowdoin Harpoon. And then other things that you may have seen in high school that also carry over to college, such as Mock Trial and Model UN are other popular ones. Regardless, it's very likely that you'll be able to find something that you're interested. But if by some chance you're not, you do have the ability to very easily start your own club. All you need to do is find a couple of other students and an advisor, and you have the ability to start your own club just like that. You also don't have to worry about funding. We have the Student Affairs Funding Committee, which dedicates and doles out money to organizations for regardless of what they need it for, whether it's bringing a speaker to campus to talk about something that's important to your group or simply having refreshments to make your meetings a little more homey.
And a lot of those speaker events and club activities will also coexist within the space that we're in right now. So we're in the Union, which is a great, really hub of student life, whether it's studying or coming to get a snack from the Bowdoin Express store, which we're walking towards, which I love. If I'm in the middle of, really working on a paper and I get a little hungry, I can zip down and get some candy or some jalapeno popcorn, and it really lifts my spirits in a nice way. But those types of speakers and events often happen within this large space that we're entering, which I'll touch on in a minute. But I do want to briefly acknowledge Jack McGee's Pub and Grill, which we're looking at right now. They have the best fried mac and cheese bites on the planet. And so it's really nice to have a lot of different opportunities for food and snacks like that within this space, because I think it contributes to a sense of community where you'll be studying and you'll run into all different friends and kind of distract yourself a little bit, but also it's really nice to distract yourself with nice people. And then up there is the cafe with the oversized coffee cup, and up to our right there's the bookstore. So to just give you a couple examples of the events that will happen in here, in addition to the normal studying, last year we had Patrick Dempsey, aka McDreamy from Grey's Anatomy, and he came and he spoke about dyslexia and other learning disabilities and what we can do to be better allies. And then in that space we were in just now on the bottom floor, we also have the spring gala. So every May, the last weekend of May, there will be a big formal and everybody dresses up, and at midnight balloons fall from the ceiling, and it's so magical and fun. And just really briefly, we're passing the mail center. So everyone does get a mailbox, which is great because if you forget anything or you need something sent to you or you need to send something, again, you don't have to go to a UPS store. You have your mail center, which is incredible, especially for getting books in the semester and returned at the end of the semester.
Absolutely. So we're currently in one of Bowdoin's many poster hallways, as I like to call them. Typically during the academic year, you wouldn't even be able to see the paint on the walls here. It would be lined to the brim with posters telling you everything that's going on campus, whether it be a new exhibit at an art museum or a concert at a college house. It's hard to walk through campus and not know what's going on. We just walked into the Book Fitness Center. So on the floors above us are the Health and Wellness Center, which have a clinic in case you get sick, but they also put on all sorts of different classes related to physical and mental wellness. So things like yoga or meditation. And that's just a really shows how Bowdoin is committed to prioritizing those things like wellness within student lives. We just looked into our main and only fitness center, and I say that because I think it's important that there are no exclusive spaces on campus. All students, whether they're on an athletic team or not, use the same gym, which is really a great way to promote inclusivity on campus, so there's no spaces which are designated to certain people and not to others. Athletics will also really integrate themselves into student cultural life. Everyone is always supporting everyone else, so if someone on your team someone on your floor is on a certain sports team, you're going to go and cheer them on, and they'll go and cheer you on at whatever event it will be, whether it's athletic or academic. And if you're not ready to commit to a varsity sport, you do have the opportunity to do intramural or club sports, which at Bowdoin require no tryouts and have varying levels of commitment. One of the things that I did last year was join the club alpine ski team, which was an absolute blast because, as I previously mentioned, I'm from Florida and had very little experience skiing before coming to Bowdoin. And that was a wonderful way for me to get off campus on Tuesday and Thursday nights and try something completely new.
In addition to athletics, another pillar of student life is the McKean Center for the Common Good, which is located in the back of the beautiful chapel that we're walking towards. And this notion of the common good is in our offer of the college. And I would say it's really central to the lives of students. Understanding your place within the world and how you can contribute to other communities is really at the core of how a lot of students choose to spend their time. So the McKean Center supports mentoring, tutoring. There's organizations and clubs that work towards helping organize a blood drive. I mentioned SMART, which is the program I co-lead, and we go into a nearby elementary school and we work with students who are facing behavioral and social challenges, and we do arts and crafts with them. And I just think it's absolutely beautiful to see how much both the mentees and the mentors really gain from that experience, and how meaningful it is. And so the doors that you're seeing right there lead to Thrive, which is a gift from CEO and founder of Netflix, Reed Hastings, who is also a Bowdoin alum. And so this was a very generous gift that supports a whole bunch of different programs within Thrive, but again, it's really focused on promoting diversity and inclusivity on campus. And so, one of the programs, for example, will bring some students to campus early in the fall or early in the summer before their first year to get acquainted with Bowdoin and to meet different mentors and professors and faculty and get situated and build infrastructure for themselves. And I think that it's really important to, I think promoting diversity and inclusivity is at the core of what Bowdoin does. And I think it's a beautiful thing to say that Bowdoin does it, but I think those types of programs and the College Street Collective are really beautiful manifestations of what that actually means to Bowdoin and how that factors into students' lives.
Absolutely. We're back on the quad now and currently looking down the path which leads you to downtown Brunswick's Main Street, spelled with an E on the end of it, just like our beautiful state. And Main Street is a wonderful way if you ever need to get off campus in order to study. So there's coffee shops and restaurants galore, just a short walk away, but there's also all sorts practical things such as the local Hannaford, which is a grocery store just a 5-minute walk away. And right next to Hannaford is the train station for the Amtrak Downeaster, which runs from Brunswick all the way to Boston's North Station. And that's a really wonderful thing to be able to take advantage of if you ever need to go home for fall break or visit friends. Bowdoin is definitely much more accessible than it may seem. Being in Maine, you have a bus line which will take you to downtown Portland in just half an hour, which is a wonderfully quaint little city. And again, the Amtrak Downeaster being to Boston's North Station in just 2.5 hours is really, really convenient.
Another nice way that the Brunswick community is really integrated with Bowdoin is through its support of the arts. So we have departmental dance shows at the end of every semester, and there are departmental theatrical productions, and it's really nice to see members from the Bowdoin and Brunswick community supporting students in that way. And the arts are certainly very prominent and present. So we have 2 museums, the Bowdoin College Museum of Art, which we're currently looking at. We also have the Peary McMillan Museum. And so there's a lot, by way of student performance groups, whether that's formal choirs and bands and orchestras, or student groups that come together and they form their own bands and perform at a college house. And so you can really find the arts integrated in all parts of students' lives, whether it's academic or social or extracurricular. And it's really nice to be part of that type of community. For me, I had the opportunity, as I mentioned, to be a student curatorial assistant here at the lovely museum. And that was a great opportunity to gain professional experience that has really helped me solidify my academic and professional goals as I apply to graduate school right now. And I draw upon a lot of those experiences that I've had. But we do like to stop our tour here on the museum steps, as they are a very sentimental and full circle place. In your first few days as a senior, you will get your first class photo taken here, and this is also where you receive your diploma. After 4 exceedingly, it feels like short years, I don't know where the time has gone, but I'm thankful for every moment of it. But we think this is a nice place to just stop and look out at the quad and end our tour. So we hope that this has been insightful and helpful, both in seeing the spaces of Bowdoin and also hearing what it's like to be a Bowdoin student and what is, at the core of the experience. And so I will stop sharing my screen, and we will move into our Q&A portion of the night.